But you got it under control.
I gotta go.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting of Monday, July 18th, 2016. We'll start with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom. Drew. Solomon. Doyle. Estes. Scott. Laurenti. Wright. Modrick. Roberts. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We're still waiting on one or two who have hunkered down in their homes waiting for the hail to stop, and should be here any minute. We'll move on to the invocation by Kathy Harris of Lifeline Connections, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So.
Here?
A man can do nothing better than eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. This too, I see, is from the hand of God, for without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? To the man who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What does the worker gain from his toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on man. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set its eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for men than to be happy and to do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil. This is a gift from God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to, and nothing can be taken away from it. God does it so that men will revere him. Whatever is has been already. Whatever will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this rain tonight, and we ask you to guide and protect all the leaders in the city, state, and national government. Enlighten them to the seasons and the needs of the people. Put your loving arms around those in the military and especially those serving in law enforcement. Remember especially the less fortunate tonight during this horrific storm, and we lift all this up to you in your name, Jesus. Amen. The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Now on to the adoption of the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now we're on to general public comment. It is a time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at a meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. We have one speaker request form, Patrick Roseland. So you're up for 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. Appreciate Mary Allender and all the council members. My name is Pat Roseland. I live at 1318 West Boulevard. I am very concerned about a portion of the West Rapid City Rapid City Downtown Master Plan. I have no problem with the plan as a whole. Even all the conception is good. However, its encroachment into the West Boulevard Historic District is what I am opposed to. The city is taking over 6 blocks of the historic district, containing nearly 60 contributing structures to the historic fabric of the district, with most of them being private residences. The West Boulevard Historic District does not belong to the Central Business District, even though it will, all it will change is the historic integrity of the district, not as a whole, and not help it. Those that know me know that I love Rapid City, and those that know me also, I treasure the West Boulevard Historic District. I have, for the most part, lived in the West Boulevard Historic District since 1994. I bought and restored 2 homes in the area, and last December I bought another home on West Boulevard and working on that one. West Boulevard was nominated as a historic district for its diverse and exceptional architecture 40 years ago, and its design still holds that today, true today. I have went to 2 open houses of the downtown master plan. I did speak to one of the gentlemen, I believe from Kansas City. I asked him if he knew that the plan was encroaching onto the historic district. He stated that he did know, and that encroachment was for a future enhancement. We all know what enhancement means. It's not positive, it's negative. And that worries me. We all know about, I spoke to the member of the planning department, and I was basically told the same thing. Don't worry about it. We may put a bike path through there, and not to. And I also spoke to Jim Shaw yesterday, who is the president of the West Boulevard Association. He stated that he also was more or less told not the same thing, not to worry about it. I am a board member of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association, and I was told by Jim Shaw that I would have the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association's full blessing in opposition to this, that you're taking over the part of the historic district, including the 6 blocks of the West Boulevard Historic District. It's unacceptable. I have 3 questions. Why was the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association not asked to be a part of the development of this plan, as we are affected by it, and the historic district is affected by it? Why was historic Rapid City not asked to be involved in this plan? And why do I not see in the acknowledgments of the master plan any mention of the Rapid City Historic Preservation Commission? Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're on to non-public hearing items, items 1 through 30. We're going to open public comment on items 1 through 24. And that brings us to Pepper Massey, the Executive Director of the Rapid City Arts Council, on item number 23.
We had dancers and singers and Charles Michael Ray on his unicycle scheduled, but on behalf of the Rapid City Arts Council, I would like to thank the community, the steering committee, and all of the people that participated in the cultural plan. We couldn't have done it without their help. I would also like to thank our anonymous donor. That individual gifted the Rapid City Arts Council with $100,000. $83,000 was used for the cultural plan, which means this did not cost the taxpayers $1. I'd also like to thank the mayor for his eloquent letter at the introduction of the plan. Impressively, it seems that the council members are of one mind and recognize the need for a well-crafted plan to support arts and culture as the arts support tourism, economic development, education, and our quality of life. As community leaders, your approval of this plan validates what many of us already know. That study after study shows that students with an education rich in the arts have higher GPAs and standardized test scores, that they graduate from school, and that they go on to higher education. And this is regardless of their socioeconomic status. That arts education builds concentration, creative and cognitive abilities, critical thinking strategies, and that students with 4 years of arts or music in high school have, on average, 100 points higher on the verbal and math portions of their SATs. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis reports that arts and culture brings in about $704 billion to our economy. That's 4.2% of the nation's GDP. Attendees at nonprofit events spend on average about $25 per person per event. That's not including a ticket price. That's babysitters, parking, meals downtown, going to the hair salon, purchasing clothes. This is great income for local businesses. Arts travelers stay longer and spend more money when they seek authentic cultural experiences, and Rapid City is lousy with them. Business leaders say that creativity is among the top 5 applied skills sought in today's market. Nobel laureates in the sciences are 17 times more likely to be actively engaged in arts than other scientists. University of Pennsylvania researchers show that a high concentration of the arts in communities leads to higher civic engagement, lower poverty and crime rates. And the arts are used by the military to promote family readiness and resilience, and the successful reintegration of veterans in family and community life. And nearly half of the nation's healthcare institutions provide arts programming for patients because it helps with healing. The arts are fundamental to our humanity. Our country and the world are currently being rocked. During these times, the arts help us express our values, build bridges between cultures, and bring us together in a non-threatening manner, encouraging us to embrace our differences and understand that we have similarities that need to be celebrated. As witnessed this past weekend at Native Pop, which is a Native arts and culture event at Main Street Square and Hills Alive, it was truly a wonderful celebration of who we are as a community. I thank the City Council for their support, and I urge you to include the Rapid City Cultural Plan as part of your comprehensive plan. And I hope that together we can work, the arts community and the city, to continue to better our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Pepper. And that'll close the public comment period on these items, and we'll go on to consent items, items 1 through 24. Would the council like to remove any of these items? We'll go to Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to remove item number 15, please.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 6, please.
Okay, there are no other lights. Well, Jerry Wright, go ahead.
Item 14 for date. Thank you.
Are there any others? Okay, we have a motion and a second for the consent items 1 through 24, with the exception of 15, 6, and 14. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go on to item number. You yelled at me last time because I did them in the wrong order or in the wrong order of the people.
I've never yelled at you.
In numerical order?
Numerical order, go to 6.
Okay. Little housekeeping going on up here, so the council president doesn't yell at me again. So we'll go to item number 6. which is to approve change order number 1F to complete concrete for West Memorial Park parking lot rehabilitation for a decrease of $18,176.90. We'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. If I'll defer to Public Works Director Dale Tech, please.
Okay, Dale Tech.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to note to the council that the attachment has changed since the Public Works Committee item. There were changes in the line item funding amounts. The total amount did not change. It was an overall decrease for the project.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Opposed? Say no. Motion carries. On to item number 14, which is initiate discussion with the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks and the Wildlife Committee on wild turkey control. We'll go to Jerry Wright.
If I can make a motion that this be back to us at the first Public Works meeting in November of this year.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone item number 14 to the first Public Works.
Not really postpone, it would be due to us.
Oh. Okay, Alderman Wright made a motion to ask for an update. From whom? State your motion, please.
The motion is that the Parks and Recreation Department will meet with Game Fish and Parks and discuss the issue before us that was discussed at Public Works on wild turkey, and they would bring back to us in the first Public Works meeting in November their findings and recommendations if there's anything we are to do further. In other words, a report from Parks and Rec to us on that issue, first Public Works meeting in November.
Okay, is that the way the seconder understood that? That's what I thought you said.
Thank you.
So, all in favor of that motion then, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. On to item number 15, which is to approve with the requirement to sign a waiver of right to protest the request from Bill Freitag for a variance to waive the requirement to install sidewalk per city ordinance along Seeger Drive adjacent to 3515 Seeger Drive, Rapid City. Go to Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. May I ask Mr. Dale Tech a question or two, please?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Dale, this goes in line with a lot of that we do, especially if there's no contiguous sidewalk, but I wanted to ask you for clarification on this because I thought staff had updated some city council members saying that the procedure for Seeger Drive had changed. And ever since it changed, I believe it was since 2004, 2008 or whatever, that any new building construction on Seeger, everybody has put in their sidewalks. Is that correct?
That is correct. The ordinance changed some time ago, the variance process for sidewalk. I don't recall how it was, but the ordinance changed and required at the time of a building permit approval the installation of sidewalk, and that is what has happened in this case. There are some instances out in this commercial development where sidewalks weren't installed because it predated that ordinance change. However, since then, I believe all building permits that were issued were required sidewalk and they have been installed. One property came to you, requested a variance that you denied in this area too, so they were required to install sidewalk.
That was my understanding, so I was a little surprised that we're granting this one because of the procedure that we've got in place of installing those sidewalks, because as Alderman Estes said during the Public Works meeting, if we don't start putting in the sidewalks and start filling in those gaps, we'll never get sidewalks in there. So thank you for that information, Dale. I still think that I would like to see the sidewalks go in on Seeker, so I probably will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Brad Estes.
Thank you. You know, and I'm the one that changed my mind when I went into that meeting because I came there prepared to not be in favor of the request to not put the sidewalks in. I wanted him to put the sidewalks in originally, and trip the trigger on the warp or order them to balance of the sidewalks, but as I look at that map, it just, you've got the freight company, and you've got the beer distributor there, and they have employees, and they, if their employees wanted to go out and take a walk around the block, they would be able to walk about 1/6 of it. And to me, I'm just not ready, but I'm soon to become somebody that will never probably vote for another variance. I mean, what was said, I was kind of surprised by what was said at the city council, or at the Public Works meeting the other day, that the way to figure out if we need sidewalks is to count the people on a path. And, and I don't think people promote sidewalks, or that walking promotes sidewalks. I think sidewalks promote health, wellness, and people walking. And I think it's coming real close for us, or at least for me, to draw a line in the sand and say, I've been in favor of granting some variances from time to time, but I'm just done, because at some point in time, we've got to quit. And I voted to allow this variance, but we got to quit. And at the same time, we draw the line. I think we should go back and order in sidewalks and make a call on all the warps that are in place, and just be real proactive at getting sidewalks installed in this community. Thanks.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I could also support the idea of the installation of sidewalks, but if I can ask the Public Works Director to make sure that I'm looking at a correct map. Is this map that we're looking at on our attachments, is that the current sidewalk, the correct road? Because it's been a while since I've driven this street, and I need to do that, but this map looks out of date, and I just wanted to make sure that what we have here in front of us is the correct view that we have.
Okay, yes, you may. We'll go to Dale Tech.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it is the correct map, and I believe this aerial photo was taken late sometime last year, so it's relatively current. As you can see, the city installed upgrades to the Elkvale lift station located at the intersection of Seeger and North Elkvale Drive, and the city installed sidewalks along that property in compliance with the city code.
I'm in the same position as Alderman Estes is, that at some point we've got to start putting these sidewalks in. And I gave some different examples throughout the city where we do need sidewalks now. And this is one of those situations where we don't have a very good connection, but we've got to start someplace. And I'm willing to listen to what other council members have for recommendation for what to do in this area, but we do have to start someplace. Thank you.
John Roberts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have granted about every one of these variances that have came across when it's in one of these more urban areas, but I do have to agree with Brad Estes on there's going to be a time when we need to start calling in sidewalks. And I think that time is going to come when we sit down, look at these areas as they're built out or close to being built out, and start calling in these sidewalks, because at that time they are going to need them. My question to Dale Tech is, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, you may.
And I drive this all the time and don't pay attention to sidewalks. That's terrible. But on Dakota Craft Drive, where UPS expanded there, did they put sidewalks in their 2 lots?
I don't believe so, and I believe a variance was approved for that.
So we have approved variances in this area, maybe not on Seeger, but right around the corner. So I think that until we build out, because I know the building permit, I believe, on the UPS was $4.5 million, somewhere in there. I mean, it was a huge building permit where, they probably could have snuck in a $50,000 worth of sidewalks, but we gave them a variance. So I think that until we build out in these areas and we have people that are using them walking, I know when My son worked across the street there at the distributor. There wasn't a lot of people getting out going for walks on break. So anyway, I think this variance is appropriate at this time for this location. Thank you very much.
Okay, there's no motion on this item. Okay, we have a motion to approve with a requirement to sign a waiver of right to protest. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
Roll call, please.
Sorry. Doyle? Estes? Scott? Wright? Modrick? Roberts? Nordstrom? Solomon? Motion passes 5-3.
Okay. Thank you. And that takes us to the end of our consent items. And now we're on to non-consent items, items 25 through 30, and we'll open public comment on those items. We have one speaker request form on item number 29, and that is David Johnson. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm here to urge the council to reject the current issue of the Dead Tree Program, what we'll call the Dead Tree Program. I did send an email out to the members of the council. Each and every member of the council should have received that. If you didn't receive it, I have copies here available. There were two parts to that email. First was the CV, the curricula vitae. This is the resume that I use when called to testify in court on litigation matters when it comes to tree-related issues, which has happened several times over the past 20 so years. The second part is my 28-point document, and I had to stop after 28 because I ran out of time, that lists the reasons for opposing this program as currently written. Third, important, a disclosure and a disclaimer here. I want to point out to the council members that my wife is Karen Johnson. We've been married 31 years now, and she is employed by the Rapid City Parks Department. A little bit of a, I need to make sure that you understand that these opinions expressed here this evening are mine and mine only. Secondly, the Johnson Tree Company has never participated in any publicly funded tree programs, so the conflict of interest is not there. We don't intend to participate in any taxpayer-funded programs, and we won't be doing it in the future. So this does not, my points here are in regard to the urban forest of Rapid City, not in regard to the Johnson Tree Company. The purpose of any hazard tree program should be in keeping with modern arboricultural practices and science, and in fiscally responsible municipal tree care, especially when taxpayer dollars enter into the arena of private enterprise. Where is the line? I'm going to ask the council, where is the line between private sector and the public sector? Should we not, as citizens, be holding private property responsibility at the same and equal level as private property rights? I'm not saying reject the program. I'm asking the council to postpone or at least table the program, a discussion of the program, until we can address the very, very serious issues that are inherent in this program as currently written. I'd like to mention item number 10. Somewhere I read that the city said that they could handle up to 300 trees with this program per year. I did an inventory on one city block in Rapid City. There were 29 dead trees in that one block. So I decided to try a second block. 45 that qualify under this program. That's 2 blocks. The third block, there were 38 trees. I haven't totaled that, but that's 3 city blocks, and that's over 130 trees. I think, that's why on item number 10, I said it's like taking a hail-damaged car into a body shop and say, fix 2 of the dents. It's not effective. There's no bang for the buck here. And it's an intrusion, frankly, private money into the private sector. I'll stand around for questions. There are 28 points here I'd like the council to seriously consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this will close the public comment on these items, and we'll go to ordinances, item number 25, and we'll go to John Roberts to have those read in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number 16, RZ019, first reading, ordinance 6124, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by City of Rapid City for a rezoning from no-use district to general commercial district for property generally described as being located south and east of the intersection of 5th Street and Catron Boulevard. And I recommend we approve.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on that item. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item number 26, number 16 RZ020, first reading, ordinance 6125, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by City of Rapid City for rezoning from no-use district to light industrial district for property generally described as being located south and east of the intersection of 5th Street and Catron Boulevard. And I recommend approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item number 26. All in favor of that item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next item, please.
Item number 27, number LF071316-06, first reading, ordinance number 6132, an ordinance to modify the procedure for approval of vision account projects by amending section 3.16.090B of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I recommend to approve.
Okay, a motion and a second to approve item number 27, and we'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I really support this concept because I believe it is time we made some more changes to the vision program. But I'd also like to put on the table for future reference, how do we judge these different programs that are coming forward to the Vision Fund Committee? Is there a standard? Should there be a standard for these projects that are coming forward? Do we make a determination of, and I'm just briefly what I mean by this is, do we make a determination between a capital project or an infrastructure project over a culture and arts project? Those are the kind of questions we need to start addressing here very shortly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval of item 27. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Number 28, number LF071316-07, first reading, ordinance number 6133, an ordinance to update the contracting authority delegated to department directors by amending section 3.04.090 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I recommend approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and approval for item number 28. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now on to Public Works Committee items. Number 29 will go to Charity Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 29 is to approve the dead or diseased tree removal program. And rather than making a motion, I would like to call Jeff Bigler to the podium, if I may. Oh. And Andy. Were you gentlemen given the opportunity to see this list of 28 points prior to the meeting?
No.
Mr. Johnson, you said you have copies. Would you mind handing one over to them? Thank you, sir. And while he's doing that, Jeff, could you give us a little bit of background as to why you were looking to implement this program upon the heels of the success of the pine beetle program?
Yes, I think I'd like to defer to our urban forester, Andy, who's worked very hard on this with the Urban Forestry Board and other city staff. And Andy, go ahead and just give a kind of a quick rundown.
Hazardous trees, whether they're pine beetle or dead trees, come down at some point. The longer they're left standing, the more likely they're going to come down, whether it be the wind and rainstorm we just had, or any other number of just rot at the base. So with pine beetle trees, you can't leave them standing. They have to be removed. And if people don't have some sort of incentive or education behind that, they generally don't. This program is coming on the heels of that as a continuation. Instead of just concentrating on our pine forest, which we have a lot of, we have a pretty large urban hardwood forest that is, as Mr. Johnson said, in really, really rough shape. In front of you, I have a survey that I did of 6 city blocks, and it is just as bleak. The longer we wait, the more trees are going to come down. And it's my crews and the fire department crews that are out there cutting these trees, and they do come down and fall on the roads. And we need to get ahead of it. It needs to be tackled before it becomes an issue, before someone does get hurt, before property gets damaged, and before it already is out of control. It is really far gone, and it is just a dent to start somewhere, but you have to start somewhere or nothing happens. Something will happen. Trees will fall over and they'll hurt somebody or property.
And are you saying that if and when these trees on private property do come down, that it's a city problem, or would it be more of the property owner's problem?
If those trees just impact that property owner, they would be that property owner's problem. But these trees that I did in my survey have the potential to impact community areas, sidewalks, city right-of-ways, etc.
All of them in your survey?
In my survey,
That
it is
area?
just trees that can impact public areas.
Okay, I yield, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Jerry Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to make some comments. I am absolutely an advocate of doing something. I was probably the #1 person to step up on the pine beetle thing and get that going, and it's been very successful. And certainly I and other members of the council did that. And we also worked together with the fire department and your department for the wildland interface, both very successful programs. The problem I have with reading this document that's before me, I can't vote for it in its format tonight. And I'm going to ask someone to make a motion that goes back and be reworked and come back. Here are my comments. #1, we're stipulating the trees that are going to be addressed are within 35 feet of the right-of-way, even though there are problems within. And we didn't use that distinction when we were in the pine beetle or the wildland interface. I don't think that's necessary, should be a requirement or a limiting factor. And secondly, we did not do anything that stipulated income-based cost sharing. I think what we have had in the past was an extremely simple, effective program that worked, and we've taken this and made it more complicated. An example of the format of this, which I have a problem with, is the stipulations of condition for the granting of the income cost share assistance is different than the cost share assistance for those that are not. The format of comparison should be identical, except for deviation of income. And also, I might recommend that when we do set out a program within the city, that we don't publish a name of a person. We should publish the name of a department or a section that takes care of it. The reason I say that is people move on and so forth, and I don't think that necessarily as we put a person's name publicly in the record. I would like to see this go back to you and work on issues that are in there. I would certainly be willing to work with you because of the pine beetle and wildland interface intercom. It just simply is not ready to be approved tonight. Thank you. But I do support what you're doing in spirit.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm going to take the exact opposite approach of Jerry Wright. I do not support this at all. if I had my opinion, it would die quickly. I think that we do have an issue with trees. I will agree with that. I agree we've had issues with trees in the past in Rapid City. Somehow it's got taken care of. We've had huge issues with trees in Rapid City in the past. My problem is, and I do have a question for our urban forester, is in the 6 blocks that you surveyed, how many properties had multiple trees? Multiple trees that would be taken care of, taken out?
There were quite a few. I don't have an exact number, but there were a substantial amount.
And that's what really, one of the things that really worries me about this program is that we go out, and I think everybody knows that Rapid City has a huge amount of people that are at or below the poverty level. We go out, we say, Miss Smith, you've got 5 dead trees on your property, you need to take them out. She doesn't have the money to do it. She's not going to go out and get bids. She's not going to go out and get somebody to take care of her trees. She's going to do the same thing that has been done for years, and she's going to have them abated. But now all of a sudden, she's going to have a $3,000 bill. How does she pay that? But we as a city are going to be forcing this upon her. We're not even going to be giving her the opportunity to possibly find somebody in the future, find a friend, find a church, find a whoever to help with these trees. And granted, we're going to give $700-800. Big deal. Big deal for a person that has $2,000 and that's all the savings they have in their life. I mean, we are causing a can of worms that we're going to be opening up that is just going to be amazing. There are tens of thousands of probably trees that fall into this program, and it is going to be in everybody's ward. It's going to hit us all. And I do not support this. I will not support this. And if the rest of the council supports it, so be it. I just want to be on the record that I would never support this. So thank you very much.
Jerry Wright.
I support resolution to the issue. That's why I suggested it goes back to be reworked. Certainly, we as a taxi entity cannot afford to recover the entire cost, nor can probably the individuals. But the fact has been stated by our forester and by Dave that we have a problem in our urban forest. And by ignoring it and taking an issue we're going to do nothing isn't going to solve the problem. So I would like it to go back to your staff and work with your staff and community, members of the council, Dave, if you'll graciously participate, and other members of the community. And let's come to a resolution. We did it on Pine Beetle. We did it at Wildland Interface. Let's do something to get their forest in control and in better managed position. Thank you.
Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I am not in support of this current ordinance either. I've got a couple questions. I also thought, since you're taking notes on if this is potentially being revamped or rewritten a little bit and tweaked a little bit, I do support Alderman Estes's point that if we are going to do a reimbursement to property owners, that some consideration needs to be made to code enforcement and how that would affect, whether they've been given notification or not. But then I will also chime in and say that I'm in support of Alderman Roberts' idea also, and that is, you know, when code enforcement comes along and makes people take down these trees, if they don't have the money to do it, they end up paying for it as a special assessment or as an abatement against their property. And I'm not so sure that that is the proper way to take care of some of these trees as well. Matter of fact, with the information you've just given us, Andy, it almost sounds to me that you're more looking at the public safety and health portion of these dead and diseased trees. And to me, Mayor, that almost seems like that's a city problem, and maybe this line item that Jeff Bigler and Andy are trying to use to try to clean up this huge issue and repairing 2 dents on a car, taking out just a few trees at a time, it probably sounds like it's going to be a 50-year project if we just use this one line item. And then if we do get that ash borer beetle coming into our area, so much for the dead and diseased tree program, because that's what this line item is for, is to take care of infestation of bugs. At least that's what this was started for when the mountain pine beetle came into. So, Mayor, I would support if one of my peers wanted to table this and let you work with staff to see what necessarily needs to be done as far as our public safety of our right-of-ways and stuff. 'Cause there may be just something totally better to address this rather than trying to do a reimbursement program to homeowners. And I saw you giving me time limits, so, oh, you weren't? I thought you were giving me a time limit.
No.
I'll continue, no, I'm not going to continue speaking. Thank you, I'll yield the floor.
Brad Estes.
I was thinking about making that motion. I just want to, I made my remarks and my concerns at the Public Works meeting. I think it needs worked on, and I think that would be a good idea. I think that when something's tabled, then discussion immediately stops. And so I wasn't prepared to mute anybody at the dais, but Mr. Mayor, I think that would be great if you would be willing to do that, to work with staff, and maybe we need to make this more of a city project. Use our people to go out and figure out which trees need to go and make it work. So anyway, I agree with little bits of everybody else. I think it needs to be communicated how this would interface with an abate. If somebody did go through an abatement process, how this does this interface as a reimbursement, or if it gets to the abatement deal, have they foregone the ability to apply for this money? We have a lot of programs in this community. There's a lot of people out there that need help. There are people that are more fortunate than others, but I'm not sure that the tree program needs two guidelines based upon income. I just don't know how warm and fuzzy I feel about telling somebody that's, well, first of all, general fund property taxes is a component to funding this through the general fund, and I'm just not sure that the tree program is a place to tell somebody that, well, we appreciate the fact that you've maybe paid more in, but you qualify for less in our tree program. So I think a lot of stuff needs to be hammered out here. I'll yield. Thanks.
Jason Salomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to direct a question to Mr. Bernard. Can you give me a little bit of history? How long this process has been going on, and what prompted this? Excuse me. The development of this program has been several months. This is the second time council's seen it, the second time Public Works has seen it. This has been rewritten to the specifications that the first city council meeting desired. They were seeking income-based component to the program, so we actually did not have an income-based component to this program originally. We did remove some language that they weren't comfortable with. So this was brought, reworked. It's been looked at by legal. It's been looked at community development. It's been looked at urban forestry. It's been looked at by a lot of people. I'm not sure how much more we can take it back and bring it back to you besides honestly removing the low-income portion of this program and making it just a simple one-step reimbursement type program. This has been in the hands of a lot of people to this point, and this is what we have brought forward after close to 3 months of a first final draft.
Do you consider this a public safety issue?
It's a public safety issue, but it's also a management tool. Emerald ash borer was brought up, and there is no emerald ash borer in Rapid City. Will there be at some point? Most likely, 5, 10 years, who knows. And this is an emerald ash borer program. All you do is rewrite the language in this to address those trees. Diseased trees is in here. An emerald ash borer infested tree is qualified as a diseased tree. It'd be pathogen or insect. So you don't actually need another program. You just need to put more funding into a program if that would ever happen.
And to clarify, we're not talking about every dead tree on a property. We're talking about dead trees that are over streets, sidewalks, et cetera, right? Not someone's backyard or anything else?
Correct. These would be trees that would impact public use areas.
Okay. I'll yield.
Okay, we'll go to John Roberts for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Johnson, do you mind if I ask you a question real quick? Thank you very much. I was out at one of my constituents' houses a week or so ago, and a couple of your crew were cutting down a couple of his trees. My question for you is, say a crew of 4 people, how many trees in the summer could they cut down?
Mr. Roberts said there are times in the past where a crew of 4 would take, I mean, that's a wide open question. It takes 6 days.
Let me break it down a little bit. If our urban forester is saying we're going to take 300 trees a year out, a crew of 4, could they do that?
Oh, yes.
My question is to this council then, if this is a public safety issue, why don't we take this money and hire 4 more people in the Parks Department, cut these trees down that are a public safety issue by the city of Rapid City? Because if it's a public safety issue, it falls into something that we should be doing anyway. Why would we even put it out into the private sector?
Well, first of all, this ordinance as written does not, Commissioner Solomon, it does not address public use areas only. It specifically states in the program that it will affect I'll read it, any tree that has potential for failure and has a target. It's addressed in the 28-point issue. It doesn't say public use. It says if it's a tree that has potential for failure. That, ladies and it doesn't say even dead trees.
And
all
Dave,
it needs is
Dave,
a simple rewording.
I've got the floor, so
I'm sorry.
Not a problem. But I think that's neither here nor there. I think that on the dais, we do realize that there needs to be some changes. It needs to go back. It needs to be reworked, or at least they do. I want it to die. But I just want to say that I do appreciate this council for listening to this, but if we're going to do it and we're going to spend the money and it's a public safety issue, it should be something that falls into our realm to actually do. So thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, can I? No? Okay. Thank you, though.
Richie Nordstrom hasn't spoken yet. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been kind of working up this idea, so if you can bear with me on my motion here, is that my motion is to direct the mayor to work with staff to develop a hazardous tree ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Okay, no one's going to second that motion, so.
Mr. Mayor, if I can
Go ahead.
retain the floor, thank you. I guess I'm not totally understanding what the direction of this council is headed for on what we're going to do with hazardous trees. We got to address them at some point. And I haven't heard you speak of any kind of a line item within your budget just yet for this next year, if we have even the resources available for coming up with a line item in our budget to take care of just the hazardous trees in the right-of-way with a crew of 4. If you haven't got that in your upcoming budget presentation, I don't know which way we're going to go on this, but we have to deal with it. We've got a problem developing out there. And just looking at some of the different streets that Mr. Bernard has presented to us, there is a growing problem out there. And for me, the cottonwoods are the biggest one. That those are becoming such a dangerous situation that we have to start someplace. So that's why I made the motion, is to have you start working with staff to come up with this ordinance or something to start addressing this hazardous tree issue. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I believe there has been for the last several years since the pine beetle issue has surfaced, there's been about $100,000 item in the budget for hazardous mitigation of trees. So I believe that's in the 16 budget, and the 17 budget's not done yet. My recommendation would be, if you don't like this proposal, my recommendation would be to deny it. And we'll go back to the drawing board and come up with something different. I would just suggest you not put a time limit or anything like that on the Parks Department. This is important, and this won't die on the vine, but that's just my input. I'm trying to get everybody here who hasn't spoken twice already. I know Jerry Wright's squirming over here, but I'm going to go to Jason Solomon for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if the motion's still on the floor for Richie, but maybe I'll make the motion that I guess you're saying to deny it. I was going to say go back and really just emphasize the public safety portion only, and maybe remove all the other stuff so we can deal with the primary trees at hand. But maybe I'll make the motion to deny it with the understanding that you're going to have to go back and rework the program so that we can get behind something. I think we need to see I'm with Alderman Nordstrom. We need to see a program to deal with the trees that are a public safety issue, first of all, and then go on from there. So I'll deny this request, but just so they know what my understanding is. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to deny in a second. And we have Amanda Scott for the second time. Sorry, Jerry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to Alderman Solomon's motion, and that would be to deny this and authorize the mayor to work with staff and bring the city council options of alternate programs, because I'm not necessarily sure an ordinance is really where we want to go with this. There may be some other options that the mayor and the staff can look at as far as bringing up. Do you mind? Here? Thank you.
The motion is to deny what's on the table here, so that will leave it wide open. Could be a program, not an ordinance. Substitute motion, Jerry? Okay, you've had twice now, so good? Good. We have a motion to deny. Back to Charity Doyle.
Back to, did I actually speak once?
Yeah, you started this.
I was just going to publicly thank you for, I started it, yeah, I usually do, huh? I just wanted to thank you for following the rules and running the meetings, and it's been a nice change of pace.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to deny item number 29. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. One aye from Richie Nordstrom. And so that motion fails. It's denied. Now to Legal Finance Committee. Oh, never mind. Community Planning and Development. See if we can get Charity Doyle to read in number 30.
I suppose. Item number 30, Mayor, is a request from KTM Design Solutions, Inc. for Richard M. Kincaid for preliminary subdivision plan for proposed Lot 1A and 1B of Blue Marlin Estates, generally described as being located at 3775 Dias Avenue. I will make a motion to approve with stipulations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve number 30 with stipulations. Go to John Roberts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to kind of reiterate what I said at the Legal and Finance Committee meeting about this. I believe it was, or maybe it was the last council meeting, get confused. But I do want to thank staff for all their hard work on this. It took a long time to get this done, but we did come to a palatable solution between the property owner and the city, and I just think the staff did a very, very good job on this, so thank you very much.
Okay, motion on the floor to approve item number 30. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And that will take us to public hearing items 31 through 38. There are no speaker request forms, so we won't have a public hearing. So on to consent public hearing items 31 through 33. Would council like to remove any of those? Okay, motion and a second to approve 31 through 33. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now on to non-consent public hearing items, items 34 through 38. Starting with item number 34, let's go to John Roberts for the reading of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number 34, number 16 RZ017, second reading, ordinance 6121, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Advanced Engineering for Mark Simpson for a rezoning from General Agricultural District to Light Industrial District for property generally described as being located east of Fountain Plaza and South Plaza Drive intersection, and I recommend approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. We'll go to Jason Solomon.
Forgive me if I'm out of order, but I wanted to make sure I pulled number 37. When did we get there? It's not on consent.
You're a little out of order, but are you just wanting to abstain from that?
Yes.
You can do that at the time.
Thank you.
So for item number 34, we have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 35, please.
Item number 35, number 16 RZ018, second reading, ordinance 6123, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Fisk Land Surveying and Consulting Engineers Incorporated for a rezoning from low-density residential district to general agricultural district for property generally described as being located at 2101 City Springs Road, and I recommend approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item number 35. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now on to item number 36. Let's go to Charity Doyle to read this one in.
Item number 36, Mayor, is a request by Fisk Land Surveying and Consulting Engineers, Inc. for Roger and Heidi Hanslick for a vacation of right-of-way for property generally described as being located at 4018 Cayabaja Street. Make a motion to continue to the August 1st, 2016 City Council meeting.
Second. Motion and a second to continue this to August 1st. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 37, please.
Item number 37 is a request by AE2S for Black Hills Federal Credit Union for a vacation of right-of-way for property generally described as being located west of 2nd Street and north of Main Street. I make a motion to continue this item to the August 1st, 2016 City Council meeting.
Okay, did you say second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this to August 1st. And we'll go to Jason Solomon.
Just wanted, for the record, I'm recusing myself from this. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion for approval for item 37. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes with one abstention from Jason Solomon. Item number 38, Charity.
Item number 38 is a request by Kent Hague for Altaterra Development to consider an application to amend project plan for tax increment district number 70, Highway 16 sewer for property generally described as being located Catron Boulevard from 5th Street to U.S. South Highway 16, then south along U.S. Highway 16 to Samus Trail and east of the proposed Highland Crossing subdivision. I will yield the floor.
Okay, we'll go to Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to continue this until the August 1st City Council meeting and retain the floor, if I may, please.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm doing this under protest. I'm doing it primarily because the applicant, the Haggs, have asked for this to be continued once again. And there was a lot of confusion when I streamed the Legal and Finance Committee meeting as far as what this was supposed to happen or what this was supposed to divide. And I do believe that part of the confusion was staff. Patsy Horton had admitted that she had just failed to update the information because she ran out of time because the latest information that came in that morning didn't give her enough time to separate these. But I want to go on record and let the Haggs know that I'm still in support of realigning the project costs, and that's what I asked them to do at the beginning of this at the original TIF discussion when they tried to come back and put the drainage utility ponds into this, because it was actually two issues. One, they wanted to amend this TID that would have reset the baseline and for the incremental tax refund on this. And that was primarily, they wanted to increase their project cost or increase this TID. That has been the stumbling block on this all along. The other thing that they need to do before they can actually start getting paid on the project cost is they need to realign the project cost. And that is part of the TID process, is you have project cost estimated out there, you do the project, costs don't necessarily come in on the per line item, they fall within the project cost, overall cost of the project, but they need to be spelled out per line item and readjusted. I am in support, because that is part of our process, of realigning those costs. What I understood that they were going to bring forward was they were dropping the drainage utility addition to this TID because it would affect two other TIDs that the City Council has passed subsequently to that, and that they were only going to ask for this realignment. And so I will continue, or ask the City Council to continue it on behalf of the applicant, but I will not be supporting anything when they do come back except the realignment of these costs. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to continue this to August 1st. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And on to item number 39, the bill list. Will go to Assistant Finance Officer Tracy Davis.
There is one addition to the bill list. It is to the Pennington County Treasurer's Office for $7,466.77 for the principal payment of the special assessment on the Habitat for Humanity property at 140 Doolittle. The new grand total is $6,566,352.86.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second for the bill list. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, and a motion and a second to adjourn, and I assume there's no protest. So we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.